and you stop believing and decide to leave the church.
What's happening here today?
Paul Stratton was, he says, disowned by his parents after leaving Mormonism. He took me to a group, they call themselves post-Mormons, where they too help each other adjust to life outside the church.
In time, they will take away your relations with your families. They'll take away your status in your community and your family. I mean, for some people, it could even affect their jobs. And for a community that teaches forgiveness and compassion and the teaching of Christ, it seems like they offer damn little of it.
Almost everyone here has a similar story of being cut off from the community and their loved ones after leaving the church.
If you leave their small little nest, they use the leverage of destroying the family to keep you there.
People who leave aren't allowed to attend their children's weddings in the Mormon Holy of Holies, the temple.
I did have to stay outside of the temple during her marriage, and it was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Sorry. I couldn't get control of myself. I was like, I should be there. I should be there. They shouldn't keep me from this.
I think the church deliberately tries to make people feel this way. Suppose her daughter really wanted to include her parents. She would be under tremendous pressure not to.
I hear of an organization called the Strengthening Church Members Committee, set up to investigate polygamists, based in the Mormon Corporate Affairs Building. No one at the meeting is a polygamist, but some here suspect they too have been investigated.
I don't know how they do it, but my membership records find where I'm living at, and they send either the bishopric or home teachers or missionaries to my home to try to get me to come back.
I worked in the records department, so this is how I know what I'm saying firsthand. They do follow you around on the records. They have a whole team and a whole department that literally calls up any relative, any acquaintance of a member to find out where they are.
What is the Strengthening Church Members Committee?
It is a group and a bunch of employees of the church, many of them composed of former and retired CIA, FBI people, who is set to watch people that the church considers dangerous. Any apostate who's gotten too famous or has written a book that's selling too well.
We met a former CIA man who does not want to be identified, but confirms that the agency employs a large number of Mormons, and some who go on to work for the church.
I personally left the church many years ago and then came back in. And when they accepted me back into the church, I was given my file. And my file was that thick. So these were letters from and reports from stake presidents and letters that I had sent to other people in the church. And so I felt extremely violated.
I want to find out more about the mysterious Strengthening Church Members Committee. Off to the church to meet its chief spokesman and the mastermind behind the I Am a Mormon campaign, Michael Purdy.
What's the Strengthening Church Members Committee, and does it still exist?
I don't know, and I'm not. I guess that's a question not for me. I couldn't tell you that. I don't know.
You're the head of media relations for the church,
Right.
And I've spoken to people, ex-members of the church, who say the Strengthening Church Members Committee does exist. Does it still exist?
I've heard that, yeah, there is a Strengthening Church Members Committee, but I couldn't tell you the details of how that works, but we'd be happy to provide someone that can.
Sorry for my confusion. When I originally asked you, you weren't sure. Now you do know that it exists, and you will give me somebody who knows something about it.
Absolutely.
So on the Strengthening Church Members Committee, the spokesman for the Mormon Church couldn't give me a satisfactory answer. Maybe the apostle could.
What is the Strengthening Church Members Committee?
The Strengthening the Church Members Committee was born some years ago to protect predatory practices of polygamists.
I asked what is it?
Well, that's what it is. It is to protect...
So it does still exist?
It does still exist. It does still exist.
And it looks at... it's there to defend the church against polygamists?
Principally. That is still the principal task.
And what is its subsidiary task?
I suppose just to be protective generally, just to watch and care for any insidious influence. But for all intents and purposes, all that I know about it is primarily to guard against polygamy. That would be the substantial, essential part of their work. I'm not on that committee, so I can't speak.
Does the Mormon Church shun people who leave?
No. Of course we don't. We don't use that word, and we don't know that practice. If I had a son this very day, given the office that I have and the visibility that means, if I had a son or a daughter who left the church or was alienated or had a problem, I can tell you I would not cut that child out of family life.
The charge made against Mitt Romney's faith by some ex-members is that it's a church that spies and a church that shuns.